Be gentle with yourself. There is a reason why I say this in almost every single one of my videos. It's because you probably aren't being gentle with yourself. Most of us have an extremely toxic self relationship. Today, I want to talk about why that is and what you can start to do to fix it. Hey there, I'm Jen. I'm a coach and creator of The Aligned Life, and I'd love to welcome you back to Aligned TV. I can't remember exactly when I started saying be gentle with yourself, but it has definitely been a few years now. I think this was part of my own journey into self healing. If you don't know, I came into the world of manifestation because my life was in shambles, basically. I was having a spiritual awakening. My marriage at the time was just breaking up. I was going through this phase of working in this job that I really hated and wanting more in my life. And also at the same time, trying to figure out why I ended up in this situation in the first place. Basically, to put it in a nutshell, manifestation is the process of creating the life that you like in this sort of magical thinking kind of way. But the real heart of it, the part that I find does the biggest amount of work for me, has always been the self-healing work, the shadow work, the emotional healing work. It is when I have gotten brave enough to look inward at my own shadow, at my unhealed inner child, that I have really made the biggest breakthroughs in my life. And just to be clear, this is an ongoing journey. I don't think there will ever be a point in time where I look at the inner work and think,
Oh, yeah, I'm all done with that now.
I have made so much progress over the years, but it's an ongoing process. It's just like your health journey or your working out journey. It's not like you just work out once for a year and that's it. You've taken care of it forever. It is something you have to come back to over and over again. We are always going through ups and downs in life. Therefore, we are running into old triggers that come back and even into new triggers. And we will have to revisit this work over and over again. So I've done the shadow work. I've done the inner child healing work. And I can talk about all of these things separately, of course, but one simple way I have discovered of summing up the whole inner healing process is just learning how to be gentle with yourself, because you probably aren't. Like I said at the beginning, most of us have a very toxic inner relationship with ourselves, and we just think that it's normal. That's the problem. Basically, you have probably been your own inner mean girl or inner mean guy for such a long time that you just think that that's the way it is. And that is the way that you're going to deal with yourself for the rest of your life. I just want to tell you in this video today, it does not have to be like that. And in fact, that radically shifting your inner relationship to yourself, just doing that one piece alone will bring you so much more inner peace, calm, and confidence in your life. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that at the end. But first, let's talk for a moment about why you might have this toxic, dysfunctional inner relationship with yourself. As you might have guessed, the answer goes way back to your childhood. We are all taught how to think about ourselves from the world that we grew up in when we were very small children. And I'm pretty old, like I'm Gen X, and I can tell you that my baby boomer parents were not emotionally regulated. Emotional healing work, like that kind of self-reflection work, that was not something that I grew up with. And I think if you are Gen X, millennial, that's probably the same case for you. If you were raised by the baby boomer generation, that's probably the same case. Yes, some people are going to say my Gen X parent did that too. Probably. If they didn't learn how to do it from their parents and they never went on a healing journey, of course, they're not going to know how to do that for you either, right? So this is how these cycles perpetuate. And this is also why it is so important for us to learn how to do this stuff. You weren't born knowing how to do this. And again, we learn from the environment that we are raised in. So if you are around people that were toxic to themselves, you probably learned a lot of that behavior because you were just subconsciously modeling it on theirs. That is what you saw. That is what you did. That is what you are doing. So I just want to stop right here and just give yourself a little bit of grace here for not knowing what you didn't know. And at the same time, let's give our parents some grace as well, because the same thing applies to them. I don't think that anyone wants to go through this life having this toxic relationship to themselves, being emotionally dysregulated all the time. But again, you don't know what you don't know. So let's just have a little bit of compassion and forgiveness, mostly for ourselves, but also for wherever we might have come from. Right now, I'm talking about parents just not being emotionally regulated and maybe not having the best relationship with themselves. But of course, if you were also raised in an environment where you had a parent who was critical of you, and many of us had this. This is something that just comes up in parenting. Parents think that they are making their child into a better person, but a lot of times that criticism and that lack of positive reinforcement does a lot of damage to the way we think about ourselves. What I will say from my own journey and from speaking to many other people over the years is that if you have that inner critic voice, that inner mean guy or inner mean girl voice, the one that is telling you that you're too stupid or too fat or too this or too that, and it has been playing the same toxic soundtrack for most of your life, you probably learned some of those messages from one of your caretakers. It is probably the same things that they said to you or inferred to you in some way that you are now repeating to yourself. We have this part of us that learned these concepts from a parent who may have been well meaning. Not all parents are well meaning, but many times they are well meaning. And now we are applying those same criticisms to ourselves. So I want you to think about what that's like for a moment. What would it be like if there was someone following you around from morning until night, calling you the worst possible names that you could think of? Understandably, you would probably be having a pretty bad day. If someone is actually verbally criticizing you, undermining you, telling you all these horrible things about yourself, even if you feel like a good person, like it's just really hard to tune that out and to concentrate on yourself and to feel like a good person. We can all imagine what that would look like if there was someone outside of you doing that to you all day. Your inner critic voice is essentially doing that. The thing is, no one can see that they're there. You are just carrying them along with you every single day from morning until night, and they are telling you things that are extremely unloving and unhelpful. And what's even worse is that most people don't even realize that this is a problem. In fact, you have probably been telling yourself,
If I don't treat myself like this, I'm gonna fall apart. I'm gonna become even worse. Things are gonna get even worse for me if I don't listen to this voice.
learning how to break up with your inner critic voice is a process unto itself, and that's not really what I wanted to speak about today. But if you want to learn more about how to do that, I have a whole class for you inside of my Healed membership program. But just for today's video, I want to just show you that that relationship right there is inherently toxic. That inner critic voice who is always telling you the very worst things you could ever think about yourself, that voice does not have to be there. I know that you have gotten used to it, and I know maybe you even think that this part is protecting me. And according to parts work, maybe that part is protecting you, but it is also creating a lot of stress in your life that does not need to learn how to be there. So, how do we get on the other side of this? How do we learn how to have a different relationship with ourselves? First of all, I recommend starting your reparenting journey. Almost none of us received the exact kind of parenting that we needed. We are all completely unique individuals, and we all required something in our childhood that we probably were not given. We cannot go back in time. We cannot rewind actually back to that place and give ourselves that thing unless we do it in our own mind. So if there is a moment from your childhood that you can think of where you felt abandoned or you felt rejected or you felt humiliated, you can do an exercise right now where you mentally rewind that picture back into that time. And then you, as in then you here right now, can walk into that image and go over and tell that little child version of you, hey, whatever this other person is doing right here is wrong. What they're telling you is not actually the truth. And I am here to tell you that you are worthy, you are loved, and I have your back. That is a very simplified way of doing reparenting work, but it is actually super effective. And the more times that you can replay this new scene in your mind where you are coming into that old scene, that old actual memory from your past, it's actually going to start to rewire your mind to see the new thing instead of the old thing. Memory is actually a creative process, which means your brain is actually filling in the blanks and creating something every single time you remember something. This is also why eyewitness testimony is not always accurate. We don't remember things as accurately as we think we do. However, you can use this as a hack to go back in and work on some of those painful core childhood memories to re-empower you to feel better in your current everyday life. So go back there, do some emotional work, and give yourself some ease around whatever that thing might be. Step number 2 is you're going to start to talk to yourself in a more gentle way. And that means breaking up with your inner critic voice. We've done a little bit of reparenting work already, and you've gotten into this idea that I can change my relationship to myself. So now what you're going to do is that you are going to give this inner mean guy or inner mean girl a name. You're going to give them a name like Griselda. And now every single time you hear that critical voice come up, you're going to be like,
Okay, thank you, Griselda. I can see that you were trying to protect me or trying to get me to do this or that, but there's no need to be critical, and I no longer need your input.
this sounds so simple and so silly, but it changes that relationship that you have with yourself. It is making that part of you that is super critical and overbearing and mean external from you, because that's actually where it came from, right? Like, you did not come into this earth as a little tiny baby with that voice in your head. You learned all of those criticisms over time. So let's start to give all of that critical energy back out there into the universe to wherever it came from by giving it a name and trying to create some distance between who you are and what that voice is telling you. Over time, you're going to be able to create a bigger gap from where you are now and what that voice is telling you. That voice is going to lose its punch. It's going to lose that incredible sting that it has, and it's going to get quieter and quieter over time. So that is how you start to lessen the blow of whatever that inner critic voice is telling you. Step number 3 in being gentle with yourself is simply learning how to have some ease and have some grace and have some space in your day. I don't want to tell you to double down on self-care because I know everyone rolls their eyes at that. So instead, I want you to start to be a little bit more gentle with yourself as you go through your day or go through your week. It is a really good idea here to put on a parenting perspective as you schedule your time or as you go through your day. So, for example, if you are used to overscheduling yourself and doing this and doing that and saying yes to every little invitation, I want you to check in with that part of yourself and really ask, like, if I was a loving parent, is this actually in my best interests? Is this what I would do for my child? Like, if I was looking at myself from a parenting perspective, is this what I would actually do right now? So you can apply that to your schedule. You can apply that to your day. Like, maybe you're telling yourself,
Oh, I really want to go home and watch 5 hours of Real Housewives tonight.
from a reparenting perspective, you might look at yourself and be like, yeah, okay, I know you really want to do that. And I know that that might feel good for a while. But how about we only watch one episode and we also go to the gym? From a reparenting perspective, you can start to create more space in your schedule. You can just be like, hey, it's okay if I take this afternoon off, if I take a nap, I will come back feeling better. But I need to put in that me time. I need to put in that downtime, that rest. I need to make sure I am fed. I need to make sure I am rested. Like, super basic stuff that you would do with a little kid. You need to start doing that to yourself. For me personally, I know there's been so many times where I realize I have had to go to the bathroom for like 45 minutes. And for some reason, I am shutting down that part of my brain and not letting myself go to the bathroom. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's like we are shutting down our actual body functions, our actual body needs. And for what? We've been taught at some point in time that that is stupid. We shouldn't have them. We should be productive. We should prioritize other things. But you are an adult now. Looking at something like your hunger or your bodily functions in that way, like in a way that those things are evil or bad, it's not serving you. You are not going to be your best self if part of your brain is busy concentrating on something else. Just really start to think of yourself as that little toddler that you are taking care of. And yeah, that can be kind of a weird thing to think about. And you are going to your office job every day if you have a lot of responsibilities. But come back to that. Like, if I was a parent, if I was taking care of me right now, like, what do I need? What do I want? What should I have? What is the best for me? Sometimes that might mean eating a snack, taking a break, taking a rest. Sometimes that also might might mean gentle boundaries. Like, I know there's this thing you should be doing or want to do, but it's not good for you. So we're going to put some boundaries around it because that is what a loving parent would do. So I hope that this video has given you something to think about and really empowered you to reassess that relationship you have with yourself. A lot of this work is reparenting work, but I think you can take it out of the context of reparenting and just start to shift the way that you think about yourself. Instead of looking at yourself like this enemy that you have to somehow manage, we need to get on the same team. We need to learn how to love ourselves. We need to learn how to create space for ourselves to be our best self. Self-care isn't just like bubble baths. It is really about truly knowing what is good for you and what isn't, and advocating for that in whatever way you can, be through your activities for today or in the way that you speak to yourself. But in any case, you are worthy of feeling good and you are worthy of having a great relationship with yourself. So please take these tools, apply them to your life, and let me know how it goes. If you like this video, please do me a favor, give me a like, give me a 5-star rating if you're on Spotify, and I'll see you back here in the next one. Happy healing.